It's 1943 over Nazi Germany. A Boeing B-17 flying Fortress thunders through flak-filled skies, bristling with 1350 caliber machine guns. 10 highly trained aerial gunners scan the horizon, fingers tensed on triggers. Suddenly, Luftwaffe fighters, sleek Focke-Wulf 190s and Messerschmitt 109s, streak toward them at 400 miles per hour. The gunners open fire. Tracer rounds arc through the sky. Thousands of rounds pour from the bombers' defensive positions. The cacophony is deafening. The muzzle flash is blinding. The result? Official United States Army Air Force statistical analysis revealed a devastating truth. Only 2% of those bullets hit their targets. Not 20%, not 10%, 2%. Out of every 100 rounds fired by American bomber gunners in 1942 and early 1943, 98 missed completely. Crews burned through ammunition at catastrophic rates, an average of 2,000 rounds expended for every enemy fighter they claimed destroyed. The mathematics were brutal, the outcomes worse. The Germans knew it. Captured Luftwaffe training manuals documented their contempt. American bomber defensive fire is psychologically intimidating but statistically ineffective. Maintain attack runs with confidence. American losses prove them right. On August 17, 1943, the 8th Air Force launched the Schweinfurt Regensburg raid. 60 bombers never returned. 600 airmen dead or captured in a single afternoon. Why? Because American gunners simply could not hit German fighters with enough accuracy to stop them. But then something changed. By mid-1944, Luftwaffe fighter pilots were frantically reporting something terrifying to their commanders. American defensive fire has become devastatingly accurate. Attack runs now result in immediate casualties. The German fighter loss rate quadrupled. American bomber losses plummeted by over 60%. What happened? How did American gunners transform from barely effective defenders into lethal aerial snipers in less than 1 year? To understand this incredible technological turnaround, we need to examine the desperate situation American bomber crews faced in 1943. The Luftwaffe entered 1943 with absolute confidence. Their fighter pilots were combat-hardened predators who had dominated European skies since the invasion of Poland in 1939. For years of continuous aerial warfare had forged them into the most experienced fighter force in the world. Official German military records documented their tactical evolution. Luftwaffe aces had developed specialized tactics called Dick Autos, fat cars, designed specifically for destroying American heavy bombers. Their strategy was methodical, proven, and terrifyingly effective. Captured German training manuals recovered after the war revealed their doctrine. Attack American bombers from the 12 o'clock position at co-altitude or slightly above. The closure rate exceeds 500 miles per hour, giving bomber gunners less than 3 seconds to acquire, track, and fire accurately. The mathematics favored the Germans completely. When a fighter attacks head-on at 400 miles per hour while the bomber approaches at 200 miles per hour, the combined closure rate reaches 600 miles per hour. At that speed, the physics of deflection shooting become impossible for human gunners. To hit a crossing target, you must aim where it will be, not where it is. American gunners needed to lead their targets by 300 to 400 feet, the length of a football field, while the target remained visible for mere seconds. Human reflexes simply could not calculate fast enough. Captured Luftwaffe intelligence assessments from early 1943 coldly stated, American bomber defensive armament presents minimal threat during frontal attacks. Fighter casualties from bomber defensive fire, approximately 3 to 4% per mission. Combat results proved German confidence justified. During the second Schweinfurt raid on October 14, 1943, Luftwaffe fighters destroyed 60 bombers from the attacking force while losing only 38 fighters themselves. German situation reports noted this exchange ratio was sustainable indefinitely. The Americans were losing 2 bombers for every German fighter destroyed, a catastrophic rate that would bleed the 8th Air Force dry within months. Luftwaffe ace Johannes Steinhoff recorded in his combat diary, "The Americans shoot with impressive volume but poor accuracy. Their tracer fire creates spectacular displays, but rarely connects. As long as we maintain aggressive head-on attacks at maximum closure rates, their gunners cannot achieve adequate deflection." The Luftwaffe's tactical doctrine was brutally clear: exploit the mathematical impossibility of human deflection shooting. Force high-speed crossing shots where human reaction time became the fatal limiting factor. And it was working devastatingly well. While Luftwaffe pilots celebrated their tactical dominance, the Americans were bleeding. The 8th Air Force faced a crisis that threatened the entire strategic bombing campaign. The numbers told a devastating story. Official 8th Air Force statistical analysis from early 1943 revealed an unprecedented crisis in bomber defensive firepower that threatened the entire strategic bombing campaign. Average ammunition expended per enemy aircraft destroyed, 2,000 rounds. Actual hit percentage, 2%. Average bomber crew survival rate for completing a 25-mission tour over German targets, 50%. American bomber commanders faced a mathematical nightmare that seemed impossible to solve. Each Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress carried approximately 6,000 to 7,000 rounds of 50-caliber ammunition distributed across 13 gun positions. At a 2% hit rate, gunners could theoretically destroy 3 to 4 enemy fighters per mission. If every single bullet that connected had immediately lethal effect, in reality, multiple hits were required to down a fighter. Meanwhile, Luftwaffe controllers were routinely sending up 200 to 300 fighters against major raids. The math was brutally simple. American bombers could not carry enough ammunition to defend themselves effectively. Training records revealed the problem's deeper implications. Documents from Laredo Army Airfield Flexible Gunnery School showed that trainees consistently achieved 15 to 20% hit rates against towed sleeve targets flying straight and level at predictable speeds in clear weather conditions. But combat shattered this performance. Official after-action reports grimly noted, gunnery effectiveness drops 85 to 90% under combat stress conditions with high-speed crossing targets, battle damage, and enemy fire. The physical challenge appeared insurmountable for human reflexes alone. 8th Air Force Operational Research Section studies calculated the impossible physics. At 400 miles per hour closure rate, an attacking fighter crosses from maximum effective gun range, 1,000 yards, to minimum range of 200 yards in approximately 4 seconds. Human reaction time, target acquisition, sight alignment, and trigger squeeze consume 2 to 3 seconds, leaving virtually no time for accurate deflection calculation and shooting. British Royal Air Force Bomber Command faced identical problems. Their operational research section reached a sobering conclusion: human gunners cannot reliably achieve effective deflection shooting against modern fighter aircraft. Recommendation: increase defensive firepower volume to compensate for inherent accuracy deficit. But volume was not working. American bombers were running out of ammunition mid-mission, while losses continued mounting at unsustainable rates. Allied Supreme Commander General Dwight Eisenhower documented his growing concern in classified communications. Current bomber loss rates are unsustainable. Without dramatically improved defensive effectiveness, strategic bombing campaign success remains in serious jeopardy. But American military innovation was about to solve a problem the British considered mathematically impossible. The solution emerged from American engineering brilliance. The Mark 14 Lead Computing Gunsight, developed in absolute secrecy by Sperry Corporation with General Electric handling mass production. This device would transform aerial warfare. What made it revolutionary? Traditional gun sights were nothing more than simple crosshairs. Gunners aimed where they thought the target would be, relying entirely on experience, instinct, and desperate hope. The Mark 14 was fundamentally different. It was an analog computer mounted directly behind the gun that solved the deflection shooting problem automatically in real time. Here is how this technological breakthrough functioned. The gunner placed an illuminated reticle on the enemy fighter and rotated a range dial to match the target's wingspan against a calibrated scale visible in the sight. The Mark 14's internal computing mechanism then instantly calculated 5 critical variables: target range based on wingspan setting, closure rate based on how rapidly the target crossed the sight, required lead angle accounting for bullet travel time, gravity drop compensation over distance, and the ballistic trajectory characteristics of .50 caliber ammunition. The sight automatically moved the aiming point ahead of the target. The gunner simply kept the illuminated reticle on the enemy aircraft and squeezed the trigger. The computer performed the impossible deflection mathematics in milliseconds, calculations that no human brain could execute quickly enough under combat conditions. Sperry Corporation engineering reports documented the crucial breakthrough moment. Engineers realized that by measuring the angular rate of target movement across the sight using a precision gyroscopic mechanism, they could calculate the exact lead angle required, completely eliminating human estimation from the equation. The technical specifications were extraordinary for 1943 technology. The Mark 14 executed complete computing cycles in 150 milliseconds. It maintained accuracy within 2 mils, roughly 0.115 degrees, at 1,000 yards range. The system automatically compensated for aircraft maneuvering and functioned effectively across engagement ranges from 200 to 1,000 yards. But development faced enormous skepticism from military bureaucracy. Declassified Army Ordnance Department correspondence from early 1943 documented institutional resistance. Proposed computing gun sight is mechanically complex, maintenance-intensive, and unproven in combat conditions. Recommend continued focus on increased ammunition capacity instead. General Curtis LeMay saw the situation differently. His classified memorandum to 8th Air Force Headquarters stated, "The mathematics underlying this device are irrefutable. If this equipment performs as initial testing indicates, it will completely revolutionize bomber defensive capability. Strongly recommend immediate authorization for combat trials." Initial testing at Eglin Field Proving Grounds in Florida shocked even optimistic observers. Official test reports documented results that seemed almost impossible. Gunnery accuracy increased from 2% to 18%, a ninefold improvement that transformed the entire tactical equation. The secret weapon was ready for combat deployment. As American armament officers quietly began installing Mark 14 sights in combat bombers throughout late 1943, the Luftwaffe had absolutely no idea their hard-won tactical advantage was about to completely evaporate. The deployment was methodical, secretive, and strategically brilliant. Classified 8th Air Force modification directives issued in November 1943 ordered, installation of new K-13 series gun sights will proceed on priority basis. Crews will receive training on equipment operation without disclosure of technical specifications. The Mark 14's true identity remained classified. Even bomber crews did not understand exactly how the revolutionary device worked. The timeline documents a quiet transformation across England's bomber bases. December 1943. First combat units received Mark 14 installations on chin turrets and tail positions, the most critical defensive stations where deflection shooting proved most difficult. Installation crews worked around the clock retrofitting combat aircraft between missions. January 1944. Gunnery schools throughout England added Mark 14 training to crew preparation. Veterans documented their astonished reactions in post-war interviews. "We could not believe what we were seeing. The sight did the aiming for us. You just kept the illuminated pipper on the target and fired. The bullets went exactly where they needed to go." February 1944. Strategic planning for Operation Argument. The massive bombing campaign targeting German fighter production facilities proceeded with a crucial advantage Luftwaffe intelligence never detected. Operation Order specifically noted, "Recent improvements in defensive gunnery effectiveness will significantly reduce anticipated losses." Maintenance records reveal the implementation scale. By early February 1944, approximately 60% of 8th Air Force heavy bombers had Mark 14 sights installed on at least 2 gun positions. The 100th Bomb Group Unit history recorded. New computing sights installed on all operational aircraft. Gunners report dramatic improvement in training range scores. But the Luftwaffe remained completely unaware. Captured German intelligence assessments dated February 1944 confidently stated, "American bomber defensive tactics unchanged. Gunnery effectiveness remains consistent with previous observations. Current fighter tactics require no modification." German fighter units prepared for Big Week using their proven tactics. Aggressive head-on attacks specifically designed to exploit what they still believed was the insurmountable American gunner deflection problem. They were preparing to fly directly into a technological ambush. Severe weather over Europe had grounded heavy bombing operations for weeks. German fighter units rested, refitted, and rebuilt strength. Luftwaffe situation reports documented over 1,100 single-engine fighters available for defensive operations, their strongest position in months. The Americans waited patiently for clear skies with their secret technological advantage installed and combat-ready. February 19, 1944. Weather finally cleared over Central Europe. Operation Argument, Big Week, launched at dawn the following morning. When Luftwaffe fighters rose to meet the incoming American bomber streams that morning, they flew into a completely different war. February 20th, 1944, 0800 hours. The largest American bomber formation yet assembled, over 1,000 B-17 Flying Fortresses and B-24 Liberators, crossed into German airspace targeting aircraft production facilities at Leipzig, Brunswick, and Tudow. Luftwaffe ground controllers vectored every available fighter to intercept positions. Jageschwader 1, JG-11, JG-3, JG-26, the elite units that had systematically destroyed American bombers for 18 months, climbed to attack altitude confidently employing their proven head-on assault tactics. What happened next shocked German pilots completely. Combat reports from that day document the dramatic shift. B-17 Tail, Gunner Sergeant Robert Thompson from the 100th Bomb Group, recorded in his official after-action statement, 3 Messerschmitt 109s approached from 6 o'clock high position. I tracked the lead aircraft with the new computing sight, kept the illuminated reticle centered on his nose, and fired a 3-second burst. Observed strikes walking along his fuselage and wing route. Aircraft immediately rolled inverted and descended trailing heavy smoke. The Mark 14 was performing exactly as designed under actual combat conditions. Across the massive bomber stream, similar defensive engagements multiplied exponentially. Official mission reports documented unprecedented gunnery effectiveness that stunned operational analysts. Mission 226 targeting Leipzig, February 20th, Luftwaffe fighters destroyed by bomber defensive fire, 61 confirmed kills. Previous mission average over the preceding 6 months, 15 to 20 confirmed kills. German pilots frantically radioed their shock to ground controllers. Captured Luftwaffe radio transcripts preserve their alarm. Heavy concentrated defensive fire demonstrating unusual accuracy, taking significant casualties during standard attack runs. Luftwaffe ace Major Heinz Barr filed his mission debrief with barely concealed dismay. Something fundamental has changed with American bomber defensive fire. Attack approaches that previously drew minimal effective hits now result in immediate catastrophic damage. Lost 3 experienced pilots from my staffel in today's operations alone. The combat mathematics had completely reversed, with 18% hit rates replacing 2% effectiveness, the entire defensive calculus transformed. A typical B-17 gunner firing a standard 3-second burst, 60 rounds at 1,200 rounds per minute, could now statistically expect 10 to 11 hits connecting with the target instead of merely 1 or 2 scattered strikes. That represented the critical difference between temporarily disrupting a fighter's attack and completely destroying the aircraft. Big week operations continued relentlessly for 6 consecutive days. Daily mission reports documented an unmistakable pattern. February 21st, 49 Luftwaffe fighters destroyed by bomber defensive fire. February 22nd, 59 Luftwaffe fighters destroyed. February 24th, 37 Luftwaffe fighters destroyed. February 25th, 31 Luftwaffe fighters destroyed. Total verified Luftwaffe losses during Big Week exceeded 300 fighters destroyed outright, with another 160 sustaining major combat damage. German fighter pilot casualties surpassed 100 killed or missing in action, including 18 experienced aces representing irreplaceable tactical expertise. American bomber losses totaled 137 aircraft lost over 6 days, still devastating for the crews involved, but remarkably 40% below predicted casualty rates calculated without the new computing gun sights. Sergeant Charles Caldwell, Ball turret gunner with the 91st Bomb Group, captured the transformation in his personal diary. The Germans keep attacking aggressively, but they're dying now. Our defensive guns finally work the way they were always supposed to. We're not helpless anymore. German fighter commander General Adolf Galland filed his sobering strategic assessment. American bomber defensive fire effectiveness has increased dramatically and unexpectedly. Current fighter attack tactics produce completely unacceptable casualty rates. Immediate comprehensive tactical revision urgently required. The air war over Europe had fundamentally and irrevocably changed. As Big Week operations concluded, captured German communications revealed the devastating psychological impact on Luftwaffe fighter forces. The psychological impact on Luftwaffe fighter forces proved immediate and utterly devastating. Captured German military documentation from March 1944 revealed an unprecedented crisis in fighter pilot morale and operational tactics. A Luftwaffe High Command Situation Report dated March 5, 1944, stated with barely concealed alarm, fighter losses from defensive fire during bomber interception missions have increased 300% compared to previous 6-month average. Pilot reports consistently indicate American gunnery accuracy has improved dramatically. Cause remains unknown. Immediate comprehensive tactical reassessment urgently required. Interrogation reports from captured Luftwaffe pilots reinforced the same disturbing narrative. Lieutenant Franz Stigler from Jageschwader 27, captured during March 1944 operations, provided revealing testimony. The Americans have fundamentally changed something with their defensive guns. Previously, you could press home aggressive attacks knowing their fire was largely ineffective. Now, even the first attack approach frequently results in immediate damaging hits. We lost 7 experienced pilots from my grup in just 3 weeks, double our previous worst monthly casualties. The Germans desperately searched for explanations. Luftwaffe intelligence reports frantically speculated about possible causes. New specialized ammunition types, dramatically improved gunner training programs, modified gun mounting installations. None correctly identified the actual cause. The Allies maintained strict classification security surrounding the Mark 14 computing gunsight throughout the war. The tactical impact cascaded devastatingly through Luftwaffe fighter operations. Fighter unit commanders issued revised tactical directives, abandoning their previously proven head-on attack doctrine in favor of less effective beam and quarter-angle approaches. These new tactics gave American bomber gunners reduced deflection shooting challenges, but simultaneously reduced German attack lethality and effectiveness. German fighter ace General Adolf Galland later testified regarding this critical period. By spring 1944, our pilots universally reported that American bomber defensive fire had become genuinely dangerous for the first time. The crucial psychological advantage we had maintained was completely gone. Pilots became increasingly cautious. Attack aggressiveness measurably decreased. Overall combat effectiveness diminished significantly. The combat mathematics that had consistently favored German fighter tactics had completely inverted. Where Luftwaffe fighters previously destroyed 3 to 4 American bombers for every fighter lost to defensive fire, the exchange ratio had reversed disastrously. Official Luftwaffe operational loss analysis from April 1944 grimly documented: current American bomber defensive fire destroys or critically damages German fighters at casualty rates that render sustained defensive operations completely unsustainable. The strategic implications proved profound. German aircraft production facilities now faced devastating Allied bombing campaigns with drastically reduced effective fighter protection. Fighter aircraft production, the primary strategic target of big weak operations, never recovered adequate defensive strength. A captured Luftwaffe strategic staff assessment stated the situation with stark clarity: American technological superiority in bomber defensive fire control systems has effectively neutralized our hard-won tactical advantages. Without immediate effective countermeasures, achieving air superiority is no longer strategically attainable. The immediate tactical victory was undeniable, but the full strategic impact of this American technological breakthrough would fundamentally reshape the entire air war over Europe. The Mark 14's impact cascaded dramatically through American strategic bombing effectiveness. Official military statistics documented a complete operational transformation. Bomber loss rates to heavily defended German targets shifted fundamentally. Pre-Mark 14 average during 1943, 5 to 7% per mission. Post-Mark 14 average throughout 1944, 2 to 3% per mission. That statistical difference proved absolutely monumental for combat operations. A typical bomb group operating 40 aircraft and sustaining 6% losses per mission would mathematically lose all aircraft in approximately 17 missions. At 2.5% losses, that same bomb group survived 40 missions, more than doubling operational lifespan and combat effectiveness. Crew survival statistics reflected this transformation directly. The dreaded 25 mission combat tour completion rate increased from approximately 50% during 1943 to over 70% by late 1944. Thousands of American airmen literally owed their lives to a compact, gyroscopic computing mechanism mounted behind their defensive guns. The strategic bombing campaign accelerated dramatically with reduced attrition rates. General Karl Spatz's official assessment report to the Joint Chiefs of Staff in June 1944 stated, Improved bomber defensive capability has enabled substantially increased sortie rates and deeper penetration missions with acceptable loss levels. Strategic target destruction has consistently exceeded operational projections. By D-Day, June 6, 1944, the 8th Air Force had achieved effective air superiority over Western Europe, an absolutely critical prerequisite for successful invasion that seemed strategically impossible during 1943. Official Allied command assessments credited multiple contributing factors, but specifically noted significantly reduced bomber attrition rates resulting from improved defensive gunnery capability enabled sustained operational pressure on German fighter forces. The revolutionary technology spread rapidly throughout Allied air forces, 15th Air Force operating from Italy. Mark 14 installation completed across all heavy bomber units by spring 1944. Pacific Theater B 29 Superfortress bombers, Mark 14 equipped as standard defensive armament from initial combat deployment. Royal Air Force Bomber Command formally requested American computing gun sights for installation on Lancaster heavy bombers. The British proved particularly impressed. RAF Operational Evaluation Report stated, American Mark 14 computing gun sight represents the most significant advancement in aerial defensive gunnery. Strongly recommend immediate procurement for comprehensive RAF operational use. Industrial production scaled massively to meet demand. Combined Sperry Corporation and General Electric Manufacturing records document over 85,000 Mark 14 units produced during 1944 through 1945, sufficient quantity to equip virtually every American heavy bomber defensive gun position throughout both European and Pacific theaters. The Germans never developed any effective technological counter. Captured Luftwaffe technical intelligence reports from late 1944 confirmed they had identified the Mark 14's existence, but completely lacked the precision manufacturing capability required to replicate its sophisticated gyroscopic computing mechanism. But the Mark 14's true significance extended far beyond immediate World War II tactical success. Military historians universally recognize the Mark 14 as a watershed moment in aerial warfare technology. Dr. Richard Hull-Lyon, former United States Air Force chief historian, definitively stated, the Mark 14 computing gun sight represents the first widespread combat application of automated fire control systems, establishing the technological foundation for all modern weapons guidance systems. The innovation's profound significance extends across multiple critical dimensions: technological legacy and post-war development. The Mark 14's computing principles directly influenced subsequent weapons systems development throughout the Cold War and beyond. Korean War jet fighters employed radar-assisted computing gun sights derived from Mark 14 principles. Surface-to-air missile guidance systems incorporated automated target tracking calculations pioneered in the Mark 14 design. Tank fire control computers adapted the gyroscopic deflection calculation methodology. Modern aircraft cannon systems continue utilizing automated ballistic computation. The gyroscopic computing mechanism pioneered in the Mark 14 established fundamental fire control principles still employed in current weapon systems. Modern F-35 Lightning II pilots utilize sophisticated fire control computers that trace direct conceptual lineage to this World War II innovation. The same basic principle of automated deflection calculation applied with vastly greater computational power. Strategic impact on World War II outcome. Military historians' scholarly consensus consistently places the Mark 14 among the top 10 technological innovations that decisively influenced World War II's outcome. University of North Texas military history professor Dr. Jeffrey Megarji observed, without the dramatic improvement in bomber defensive capability provided by computing gun sights, the strategic bombing campaign's operational timeline and overall effectiveness would have been severely compromised, potentially delaying Allied victory. The United States Strategic Bombing Survey's official conclusion explicitly stated, improved bomber defensive fire control systems contributed significantly to achieving air superiority over Europe, directly enabling D-Day invasion success and subsequent ground operations. American innovation tradition. The Mark 14 perfectly exemplifies the broader pattern of American technological problem-solving capability, where other nations accepted 2% gunnery accuracy as an immutable limitation of human physiological capability. American engineers asked the transformative question, can we design and build a mechanical system to perform this calculation better than humans? Military professional education institutions routinely cite the Mark 14 in advanced courses on technological innovation and tactical adaptation. The Air Force's Squadron Officer School curriculum includes detailed case studies demonstrating how technological advantages can rapidly and fundamentally shift tactical and strategic balance. Industrial manufacturing achievement. Producing over 85,000 precision gyroscopic computing mechanisms during wartime conditions showcased unmatched American industrial capacity and manufacturing expertise. Each Mark 14 unit required extraordinarily tight manufacturing tolerances, individual components machined accurate to thousandths of an inch, yet production successfully scaled to equip entire bomber fleets throughout both theaters within months. The human factor. Perhaps most significantly, the Mark 14 eliminated an impossible psychological and physical burden from aerial gunners. Veterans' accounts consistently emphasize profound relief at finally possessing effective tools. One gunner stated during a 1990 interview, that computing sight gave us a genuine fighting chance for the first time. Before, we were just desperately throwing lead and hoping. Afterward, we were actually defending ourselves effectively. This remarkable story of American technological innovation demonstrates timeless lessons that remain profoundly relevant today. The transformation from 2% accuracy to 18% accuracy was not magic. It was pure American engineering ingenuity applied to a deadly combat problem. The Mark 14 computing gun sight definitively proved that technological innovation could overcome what initially appeared to be immutable human physiological limitations. The key lessons documented by military historians remain powerfully relevant. Innovation wins wars. When conventional approaches, more defensive guns, increased ammunition capacity, improved training programs, could not solve the deflection shooting problem, American engineers created a revolutionary technological solution. The Luftwaffe maintained superior pilot experience and aggressive combat tactics, but American technology systematically neutralized their hard-won advantages. Small percentages create massive operational differences. 9 times more accurate might sound merely incremental, but in actual combat operations, the difference between 2% and 18% hit rates directly translated to thousands of American lives saved and critical strategic objectives achieved. Never underestimate the cumulative impact of seemingly modest technological margins. Operational secrecy multiplies tactical advantages. The Germans never successfully identified why American bomber defensive gunnery suddenly improved so dramatically. That intelligence failure critically delayed their countermeasures and tactical adaptations, preserving American advantages throughout months of decisive operations. American industrial capacity proves strategically decisive. Inventing the Mark 14 demonstrated brilliant engineering. Manufacturing over 85,000 precision units during total wartime mobilization proved utterly unstoppable. This powerful combination, revolutionary innovation combined with massive production scale, repeatedly provided America with decisive advantages throughout World War II. The Mark 14 computing gunsight remains one of World War II's most historically underappreciated technological breakthroughs. While radar systems, atomic weapons, and code-breaking operations receive substantially more public attention, this compact, gyroscopic computer quietly saved thousands of American airmen's lives and directly enabled achieving air superiority over Europe. Next time someone claims technology does not fundamentally matter in warfare, remember the Mark 14. If you found this incredible story of American innovation genuinely fascinating, hit that subscribe button now. We are covering more unknown World War II technological breakthroughs that changed history, from the proximity fuse that revolutionized anti-aircraft effectiveness to the controversial Norden bombsight saga. Drop a comment below. What other World War II innovations deserve far more historical recognition? If you want to dive deeper, check the video description for complete historical sources, official military histories, museum documentation, and academic research that rigorously document every fact presented. Remember this lesson: American ingenuity categorically refuses to accept impossible. When bomber gunners could only hit 2% of enemy fighters, engineers simply built a computer to solve the problem. That is the American way. Military history consistently proves: never bet against American technological innovation.